that Imam al-Zuhri was the first person to use the chain of narration, or the isnad. And the third opinion is stated by Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Qattan, who said Amr al-Sha'bi was the first one to scrutinize the isnad. And Amr al-Sha'bi died in year 103. So now, let us understand what is being asked over here. As we know, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there wasn't a need for isnad because the Prophet ﷺ was alive at that time, and people would go directly to the Prophet ﷺ. Now when the Prophet ﷺ passed away, did the companions ask for chains of narration? At certain occasions, yes they did. And the example of this is the hadith of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu. The scenario of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when he saw Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, and he narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that you knock thrice to seek permission, and if you aren't answered on the third time, then you should leave. So Umar ibn Khattab asked Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, do you have a supporting witness to this? Meaning, can you strengthen your isnad, or strengthen your narration from the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? So this was actually established from Umar ibn Khattab. But again, this type of scenario took place very seldom, and it was very, very rare during the time of the companions. And it actually started and became more frequent as the innovations increased, and as the sects increased, and they increased in number as well. So that is what we need to understand, that these are the three opinions. As for which opinion is more correct, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. But it seems that the opinion closest to the truth is that when the fitna of Uthman started, and when he was killed, that is when the tabi'een and some of the sahaba would ask more extensively for the isnad, had they been reporting hadith from other sahaba, or from some of the tabi'een. So that seems to be the correcter opinion. Now, point number 3 we mentioned was the establishment of the science of jarh wa ta'deel. As the sciences of hadith progressed, and we will get into that bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, that the first person to compile a book on the sciences of hadith was Imam al-Rama-Hurmuzi. Very difficult name to pronounce and even write. His name was al-Rama-Hurmuzi. And this was in the early part of the 4th century. This is the first official book in Mustalah al-Hadith. And prior to that, the sciences of hadith were developed along with hadith themselves. You look at the likes of Imam al-Tirmidhi, he introduced the concept of a hadith which is Hasan. And Imam al-Tirmidhi died in the year 279. So even though he didn't write a book particular to the science of Mustalah al-Hadith, he was including some of the terminologies which would later on be included in the science of Mustalah al-Hadith. So as time went on, we mentioned from the athar of Muhammad ibn Sirin that people of innovation started fabricating ahadith. And as time went on, people were not like the companions, meaning that they didn't have pure and fresh memories. So people who were weak in their memories, and people who had innovations in them. And likewise, as people got further away from the generation of the Prophet ﷺ and the generation of the companions, likewise they also increased in their disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these 3 main reasons, meaning innovations in the deen, and a loss in memory, and people increasing in their fisq, all helped induce the sciences of hadith. And from the sciences of hadith is al-jarh wa ta'deel, where you disparage and you credit narrators. So as for the companions, then there is unanimous agreement that we accept a hadith from all of the companions, and none of them are ever to be criticized. This is from the aqidah of Ahl Sunnah. Now after the time of the companions, where you have the tabi'un, then from them are those who you can accept from, and those who you reject. Now as for the reason of rejecting them, there are one of 2 reasons. One is adalah, and one is dabt. Dabt refers to precision, meaning that a person will start to forget either in old age, or naturally he doesn't have a good memory. So this is what dabt refers to. And there are also levels of dabt. There's dabt at-tam, which is complete precision, meaning the vast majority of this hadith are precise the way he heard them. Then there's dabt, which is general, which means mediocre, average memory. And then there's dabt, which is weak, where you do not narrate from such a person. Then as for adalah, this goes into 1 or 2 things. either in terms of bid'ah or in terms of fisq. Now, in terms of bid'ah, there were four main bid'ahs that became predominant during the time of the ending of the Sahaba and during the time of the Tabi'een. They were the bid'ah of tashayyu', meaning that believing, it started off firstly as giving precedence to Ali over Uthman, but then it led to Ali being Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. This is what they accused him of. So this is what it led to. And these were from the extreme Shia. Then you have the fitna of the Khawarij. The fitna of the Khawarij meaning that they made takfir or excommunicated Muslims due to the major sins that they committed. And then you have the fitna of the Murji'ah, which was a rival to the fitna of the Khawarij. The Khawarij said that you commit major sins, you're outside the fold of Islam. So the Murji'ah came and they said, no matter how many sins you commit, once you say the Shahada, your Iman will not go up or down. Meaning actions are not a part of Iman. So this is what they came up with. So this is number 3. And then the fourth bid'ah that came was that of Qadariyah. Meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not control our destiny. And He doesn't know what will happen until it happens. And if you look at the involvement of Qadar, you have the Qadariyah al-Mutaqaddimin and the Qadariyah al-Muta'akhirin. As for the Qadariyah al-Mutaqaddimin, then they denied the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is blatant kufr and disbelief. Saying that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not know, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not have knowledge of the future, then this is blatant disbelief. As for the Qadariyah al-Muta'akhirin, they didn't deny the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows, but He does not control. Then this is an act of bid'ah, which in most cases will not take one outside the fold of Islam. So those are the four bid'ahs that became predominant during the ending of the time of the companions and during the time of the Tabi'een or the successors. So this was what caused people to doubt the adala or the trustworthiness of the narrators. So they would ask people about their beliefs on certain issues. And likewise another aspect of adala, as we mentioned, was fisq. That as new people came into Islam, they had a lot of jahiliyyah with them. They weren't like the companions, and they weren't like the senior successors who studied with the companions. But rather, sometimes they were new into Islam and they had a lot of baggage with them. Or sometimes they might have been born into Islam, but they just did not practice to the ability that they were supposed to. So a person who committed a lot of fisq, or a person who openly committed fisq, then likewise his adala or trustworthiness was put into question. So relating this to the science of jarh wa ta'deel, if a person had a problem with his adala or his dhabt, he was to be criticized. And then if a person didn't have adala, didn't have a problem with his adala and was not criticized, there's still a question mark on him. Because you can't accept from someone whose hadith is unknown. And once you know the person, you have to know where does he stand. Was he someone who was righteous and trustworthy and had a good memory? Or was he someone who was a weak narrator, or did he have any problems with his adala? So even to be unknown, an unknown narrator is a form of criticism itself. So this shows the perfection of the science of jarh wa ta'deel, that you only accept not only from those people who are known, but they have to be known for good and righteous characteristics, good memory and good deen. Good deen specifically being sticking to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and not committing open sin or frequent sins. So this is how the 2 points are brought together. That the sciences of hadith were brought with the isnad, and then the sciences of jarh wa ta'deel were brought. And point number 4 was? What was point number 4 that we mentioned? Right. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserved the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ through writing. And now we mentioned already how the companions radiallahu ta'ala anhum used to write from the Prophet ﷺ, and how most of these, actually all of these sahifas were lost in their totality, meaning that we don't have any complete versions of them. And the first complete sahifa we have was that of Ibn Munabbih. Hammam ibn Munabbih is the first complete sahifa that we have. So as time went on, we're jumping forward to the year 99. We mentioned that Hammam ibn Munabbih died in 100.